My name is Mike, and today we're going to be making apple pie. I went up the road a little ways and picked mine fresh off the tree in a small orchard. We're also going to be using the Solar box cooker to cook the pies, but you can use a conventional oven or a range top. So let's get started. I went to the small town of Julian, California, famous for their apples. The orchards were out of apples, mostly because late in the season and also a hailstorm. But I found a small orchard that had Northwest Greenings, which would be great for their tartness, and Hawkeye Reds, which are great for their sweetness. These apples are small, but they will work fine for the apple pie. I wanted to talk briefly about the difference between cooking the filling on the stove and just letting the apples bake inside the pie. The latter is problematic for me for two reasons. Apples have a lot of moisture content, and that tends to make the filling thin and watery, which ultimately makes the bottom crust soggy. Also, the apples will shrink when they bake, and you end up with this sort of hollow area between the top of the crust and the pie, and it's almost a cavern, and then when you cut the pie, it collapses, and the pieces of pie don't look as nice. I've started peeling, coring, and slicing the apples. This really is the hardest work of making an apple pie from fresh apples, but it is worth it. My grandma often used apples that were about the same size, and I certainly have an appreciation for the added work. The proportion of the core to the available or usable apple is such that it takes a lot of small apples. I did augment with a couple of Granny Smith larger ones just to stretch it out because it was taking so long. So much appreciation to Grandma for the work she put into it. She also would do this for hours and then can the filling for use later on. I took the apples and kept them in a little bit of water along with some lemon juice to avoid them from browning, and then thoroughly drained them. I took a stick of butter, which we melted in the Solar cooker, and then combining to the butter, I added 2 tablespoons of flour and 1/2 teaspoon of cornstarch. And then just sort of mix that up so that the fat could absorb the powders or the flour and the cornstarch. Mix that up real good. And then the rest of the ingredients are just all dumped in and added in on top of this and mixed up at the end. We also had next 1 cup of brown sugar, which was added in first, followed by a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, then some lemon juice, and we added a little bit of salt, about 1/2 teaspoon, and spices included 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. And then all of that gets mixed up real good. Try to break up the lumps in the brown sugar. We top it off with the previously sliced and prepared apples. And you just stir this up real good. This is the point where if you're in the first camp and you believe the apples should be baked within the pie shell, which is really what my grandma did. She would have stirred this all up real good and then just poured it directly into the pie shells. But as I mentioned, I'm of the camp that believe cooking the pie filling before adding it to the pie gives you a couple of better results. One being less likelihood of the bottom crust being soggy, and that prevents that sort of cavern or airspace that would normally occur when the apples shrink while they're cooking. So this is now going to be ready to go out to the Solar cooker. Okay, we're going to check on the Solar cooker now, and looks like we're at around 315 degrees, but I noticed that it's gotten out of alignment with the sun a little bit. We want to move this so that the circles line up. And I think, there we go. That's about perfect. And that will give us the best temperatures. We should get up to 350 now. So now we're going to go ahead and add our apple pie filling. Let me grab that. We're just going to set it right there into the solar cooker. Close the lid. We're going to latch it there and latch it there and let it do its thing. Well, the pie filling has been cooking for about 50 minutes. I'm going to go out to check on it. I haven't stirred it or messed with it at all. One of the good things about solar cooking is it's very hard to scorch or burn food in a solar cooker. And as I stir it around, it is ready. This is absolutely the consistency that we want, so we're going to remove it. Any leftover pie filling that you have can be kept in the refrigerator, and it makes an excellent topping for ice cream, or you could put it on top of a waffle in the morning. It can also be added to pound cake or angel food cake. Really, the ideas are endless. For the pie dough, I'm not going to try to make that in this video. I've done that in my pumpkin pie video if you wish to watch that. I used the food processor method, and it turns out really, really well. I am going to make some apple garnishes for the top of the pie using a apple cookie cutter. We'll make 6 of them, 1 for each slice of the pie. These are easy to cut out of leftover scraps. Well, the bottom pie crust is ready to come out of the cooker. So it's been in here in the solar cooker for about 20-25 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out as we unlatch it and open it up. And it's perfect. I didn't want to fully cook it. I just wanted to partially cook it to give us a better opportunity of the bottom not getting soggy and that the dough is fully cooked. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and add the pie filling to our pie, our apple pie filling that I made yesterday. And you just kind of set it all in. And a little bit more. It's actually taking more of it than I thought it would. Thought I might have some more left over. And there we go. I've added the top pie crust, and then I decided to just score lightly the 6 pieces of pie to make it easier for my spacing of the apple garnishes. That turned out to be a mistake, and you'll see why later. Should have left the top of the pie solid. And I'm doing a pinch pleat type border. We're brushing on some egg wash with milk, combination of milk and egg. Here is the pie with the garnishes on, the little apples that I made earlier, and I'm adding some vent holes to the center. So the pie now is ready to go into the solar cooker. Well, the Santa Ana winds have picked up. It's gotten very, very windy. I'm going to need to go ahead and remove the pie as the reflectors are catching the wind. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. It's been baking long enough that it should have been done, and it looks pretty done. Actually, it looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out. Well, here is the completed pie, and you can see what happened where I made those scoring marks for the spacing of the individual pieces of pie. The pie cracked along many of those score lines, so I should have just left the top intact. I do like the apple garnishes and the way they turned out using the little apple cookie cutter, and I will probably do that again someday. I like the way those looked and the way that turned out. The last problem, I think I made the top crust a little too thin. I should have probably rolled that out a little bit thicker. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this solar cooking video, I hope you'll come back and look at future episodes forthcoming. Consider subscribing, and of course the thumbs up helps as well. Thanks again, and until next time.